Ready? GHK Lall on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Thank you for joining us. Today on the National Outlook on the second day of the work week, we want to visit at the Health Ministry. And there are two news items from last week that I'd like to focus on today and which causes me a lot of trouble and should cause each and every citizen, regardless of your political loyalty, some form of serious concern, given that you and I are the taxpayers involved. Health Ministry replaces, this is from late last week, $742 million of expired drugs. 742 million. That's $742 million, $750 million of expired drugs. How the hell does such a thing happen? How? Who's responsible for this? Why are those people still working there? Well, I know it goes all the way to the top. But, I mean, we're not talking about 7 million, which is bad enough. We're talking about $742 million worth of drugs. Let me see what the minister was saying, Dr. Frank Anthony. I understand the first thing was that the drugs were all stacked in a place where they couldn't be accessed and moved around as freely. The inventory management was atrocious. All right. Then you have another 206 items of medicine that are due to be out of stock, and 156 medical items. This is when they took office, when the PPP took office, and 156 medical items at zero stock level. My fellow Guyanese, who is responsible for this kind of barbarity? We're not talking about 15 drugs, we're talking about 156. We're talking about 206 items that are almost depleted, right? And what else? It's going to take $3 million to dispose of these expired drugs. Dangerous expired drugs we don't play games with once they are expired. I mean, I remember reading about some bond in Sussex Street where a lot of money was spent, and the way the arrangements took place with who got it and the way they got it was most discomforting. Just one of the things that went on that raised a lot of questions. So now here we are talking in early November from the Honorable Minister of Health about $750 million worth of drugs that have expired, that are useless to us. Somebody's got to pay that, and that's you. How long are we going to deal with this kind of nonsense? How long are we going to deal with this utter foolishness? Then, on that same day last week, in Kaieteur News, I read of this thing. Government rescinds Health Ministry headquarters contract after 90% of 356 million paid. But here's the story. Here's the worst part of it. Project incomplete despite 317 days, I repeat, 317 days extension. Oh God, where do we get these people from? We didn't have a hurricane here, there was no force majeure. And yet we have almost a year, over 10 months, yeah, that's close to 10 months, and the project is still languishing. 90% of 356 million, let me see, that would be about, that's over 300 million, is paid out in advance. Let's see. And less than 70% of the work was completed after the contractor had received $308.4 million in advance payment, mobilization, and payments on 8 interim payment certificates. Now, to throw acid in our faces, in the face of the new government, in the face of the taxpayer ultimately, the AG stated that the contractor handed them a repriced bill of quantities for variations to the contract. Now, the variations could have been made by the previous government or this one, but I think this would have been at the end of September. So the new government would have been in place for 2 months. So it might have been this government that did that. Variations of contract, a repriced bill of quantities. That's an estimate for me and you. That's a firm estimate of, look, this is what this thing is going to be. It's more than an estimate. It locks in. And to complete the works exceeded the contract sum by the additional sum of $513+ million. So we had $750 million in expired drugs. We've got to spend $3 million to get rid of it. We've got a number of items expiring shortly or at zero stock level. And we've paid a man, rightly or wrongly, $300+ million. And the project is nowhere near completion after a year's extension. My fellow Guyanese, what is going on here? What went on here? Why do these kind of things keep happening? I'm thankful for the expose. Now, what are we going to do? If contractors cannot deliver, let's single them out. Let's deal with them. If contractors deliver, let's reward them. But now we're talking $1 billion, close to $1 billion in drugs, and this one, 350 plus, then another 500. So it's another $750 million. We're talking almost $2 billion here. This is not beer money. This is not chicken feed money. This is real money that we have to pay back. But whilst we are paying back, we haven't gotten much of anything for it. Look, I'm hearing the right songs from the new government. Can we lock up some people here? Can we dismiss some people? Let's do that. People who deserve being dismissed. Not about political appointees and that. People who deserve being sent home. Dereliction of duty. Wrongdoing. By the way, with that kind of money, people have done wrong. People have done wrong. I'll tell you a quick one. The little stint I had at the Gold Board, there was a guy who was paid 100% before I got there for an IT system. It was tens of millions of dollars. The system wasn't working, so I got to the bottom of that. I'm sitting in the board meeting, and then I called a separate meeting. What happened here? The chief internal auditor at the time said the specs weren't delivered. I said, are you sure? He said, yes, we didn't know it wasn't delivered. I said, okay, let's summon the people. The contractors will call in, walk with his high-power team. No, we delivered. I turned around to my guy and said, is this thing working? No. Is it delivered? He can't answer. Was it delivered? No. I turned to the manager overseeing that area, and he's, no, it's not working. I turned to the auditor who told me before that it has not been delivered. It's not working. And now suddenly he's silent. Whoever got to him, or however he was compromised, I can't say. But this is the kind of people we have around that we end up in this kind of trouble with these kind of contractors. Day after day, government after government, PPP, PNC, we hear the same thing. I'm hoping after all these nice, sweet songs about cleanup and incorruptibility and transparency and accountability, that we'll have the real deal this time. And it's not more of the stupidities that we've heard and the vulgarities over the years. Until the next time, this is GHK Lall on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 to 99.5 FM. Thank you for joining us on the National Outlook.